Welcome to Legends Live. What you just saw is the promo video for a brand new Legends Care program that the NBRPA just announced and just went live. The Legends HBCU Scholarship for undergraduates attending HBCUs across the country is live now. You can find out more at legendsofbasketball.com/HBCU. Welcome back to Legends Live, kinda. Now, we're still presented by the National Basketball Retired Players Association, the home of all our NBA and WNBA legends. And normally, this is where I tell you viewers can submit questions at the end of the show that we'll answer. But for our 70th episode, for our one-year anniversary, we wanted to do something a little bit differently. So recorded a little bit earlier with our guests. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome in today's guest. He's a former Syracuse Orange. He's a former Washington Wizard. He is a current poet, author, activist, as well as a featured writer and podcaster for Basketball News. We've got Etan Thomas with us. Etan, thank you for joining us, man.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Of course. First things first, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm blessed. I can't complain at all. I still live here in D.C. With my family after being with the Wizards for so long. So I still live in the area. And, can't complain.
That's always good to hear. Now, when I was introducing you, did I miss any titles? I feel like you wear a lot of hats. Did I miss anything?
No, I do. It's okay. That was a great intro, so I appreciate it.
Of course. Now, as I mentioned, you're activist in the activism. I guess what kind of activism speaks to you, or I guess like appeals to you?
So a lot of the work that I'm doing now is particularly dealing with impacted family members. So that's family members of police brutality. So for my previous book, We Matter, Athletes and Activism, I connected with a few family members and I wanted to interview them because they were at the center of everything. So I interviewed a lot of different athletes from, yesteryear and today. I interviewed, Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and, John Carlos and Tommy Smith and Abdul-Rauf and all of them. And then current athletes like Dwayne Wade and Russell Westbrook and Eric Reed and, Torrey Smith. But I wanted to really start with the impacted family members because that's what all of this activism is all about.
Right.
So I interviewed Eric Garner's daughter, Emerald, Terrence Crutcher's twin sister, Tiffany Crutcher. I interviewed Trayvon Martin's brother, Javaris, and I interviewed Philando Castile's mother and sister.
Wow.
So since then, I've kind of been, working with them a lot, and then now I'm working with other impacted family members. So now I'm working on my next book, and I'm dealing with a lot of other impacted family members as well, and giving them a platform with their voice, helping them with their foundations, pushing the message. So it's really what I've been all in terms of activism.
Now, what was that experience like talking to some of those impacted family members? What was that like for you?
Oh my gosh, those were the hardest interviews that I've ever done in my life. Like literally,
I bet. Yeah.
I'm sitting there, talking to them, and a lot of times they get emotional. A lot of times they're, there's certain things that they say, and I'm trying to keep it together. I'm trying to. I feel my eyes watering up. You know what I mean? Like
right,
I'm
absolutely
talking to them. So they're really difficult, but being blessed to have this platform, the NBA, even though I'm retired now, I still have the platform, and being able to just continue to amplify their voices. Not speak for them, but help them with a platform for them to keep speaking. So I put together different panels and I put together different interviews and things of that nature, of them, with them, and and supporting. And the thing that's interesting is they're all pushing through their foundations to have laws be changed. And so aiding them in that effort as well. So it's just a blessing to be in this position to be able to play that role.
Now, was this something you were like always passionate about, like when you were still in the league, like as a student, even before that, or is it somewhat recent, or when did this really speak to you to get involved?
So for me, it happened at a young age. I started getting really interested in my history and my culture, probably in middle school. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and kind of everything kind of changed for me. I started opening, my mother's just giving me different books about different athlete activists who use their position and their platform. So started reading about Muhammad Ali, who you see in the back of me, reading about Bill Russell and John Carlos and Tommy Smith and Kareem and all of them. So that's who I always wanted to aspire to become. So then in high school, I started getting into speech and debate and things of that nature. So I started writing speeches and debating topics and things of that nature about race relations, police brutality, things of that. So that's where I kind of really got into it. And I just kind of kept doing it my whole life. I just played ball while I was doing it. So, basically, so that's what happened.
So what was it like talking to, you said you read about those guys, the Bill Russells, guys like that, and then you just mentioned you get to talk to them now. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Like I interviewed Bill Russell, and it was so amazing because he's older now, but he tells like he answered every question with like a story, and the story just perfectly answered my question. And it was like I was like, man, that was dope.
That was a great story, yeah.
How you just put that together, and it was it was just amazing. Sitting down and talking to Kareem, talking to Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who I was in high school reading about him, and Craig Hodges, and I mean, it was just really amazing. But just also knowing the sacrifices that people have made for athletes now to enjoy the freedom that we enjoy now, as far as being able to speak freely. Back when Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf did it, it came at a cost. Craig Hodges did it, as well. It came as a cost. So definitely being able to honor them as well. But it was a great honor to be able to speak with them.
Now, in this, I guess, line of work, I'll ask, like, how do you stay motivated in this? Because, again, we just saw Minneapolis police killed Dante Wright, unarmed black man. So how do you try to stay motivated or focused, times like these?
I mean, the motivated part isn't the issue. Sometimes it's tough not to get discouraged, to be honest with you, because you see things happening, and sometimes it doesn't seem like it's getting better.
Right.
I mean, you after last year when George Floyd happened, and there was like this uprising, with everybody. I mean, last summer was probably, honestly, in my lifetime, the most white people that I've seen ever protest the death of a black man by the police. In my lifetime, I had never seen anything like that before. It didn't happen like that
nationwide.
They all over. Like there was places where
the world really,
right. You look at some protests, and there's all white people in Idaho protesting, or like you know what I'm saying. Like so from that standpoint, it was amazing to see. But then it looked like police brutality got worse after that. Like we heard more cases and. And it's frustrating when there's more hashtags and there's more family members and there's, more grieving and more anger and it doesn't seem to be curving. So that's a part. So sometimes it's hard not to get discouraged, but you got to keep fighting. This has been a fight that, we've been fighting as a people for decades, you know what I mean? But then you're like, okay, but we're still fighting the same things that our grandparents were fighting back in the, so it's tough. It is tough.
I mean, it is tough, especially like it feels like, we're kind of putting the onus on the people affected by it, to figure out the issues. But I'll ask, like, what, from our shoes, what can we do? How can we help? What ways?
So when you look at a lot of the impacted family members, they're specifically trying to get laws changed. And usually it's particular laws in their particular states because each police department is completely different. Right. But even from a federal level, it's really interesting hearing the different congressmen and congresswomen that they're all appealing to try to get the laws changed. And some of them are open to it and some of them are not. And
not so open
to even changing the language to bills that they're trying to push for. Right. And then it's interesting to go and then see this same congressperson speak as if they're so concerned about, the
cause.
They were the cause. And then you talk to the impacted family members and they're like, no, we met with that person specifically and they had no interest in trying to actually get something done. So then the frustration part comes is seeing that a lot of people are giving lip service. And these are people who can change things. These are people who can, hold police officers accountable, put things in place so that police officers, right. And they're like, no, we're not really focused. So that part is frustrating. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on. And people making statements and pretending to be one way, but then, when they have actual power, they're conducting themselves completely different. And I I didn't know it was to that level to when, and except for when I'm working on this next book and speaking to them. I'm like, wow, wait, that person too? Like I just saw them speak the other day, and they was like,
right, it must be two sides, yeah.
Right, and they're like, nope, we spoke to them ourselves, and that part's a little frustrating.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the way like the NBA has handled, like, I guess, social justice issues or allowing players to, speak out or, on these types of things?
Well, I think Adam Silver has been great. I interviewed him in We Matter, and I asked him in my book, would he ever punish someone for speaking out on something that he disagrees with? And that's always the caveat. Anybody can applaud somebody when they agree with them. Right. I'm like, okay. He was like, well, yeah, me agreeing with them doesn't have anything to do with it. And he talked about the history of, Bill Russell and Kareem, and the history of activism in the NBA. And it was great. And I have a lot of respect for Adam Silver because he practiced what he preached. Like I wanted to get him on record saying that to kind of squash the notion that was kind of going around that if you do speak out, you're taking a risk. At least in the NBA, I can't speak for the NFL. That's a whole different league. But whole different league. But at least in the NBA, he created this safe space where athletes can feel that they won't be punished if they do speak out, and they won't be, like Colin Kaepernick. You know what I mean? If they do, take a stand for something. And it's important that he did that because it's like no other league, to be honest with you. I mean, what we saw last year in the bubble, take for example, I mean, it was really amazing, not just the stuff for show, not just the Black Lives Matter on the court or the stuff on the back of the jerseys, which is all great, but the programs that they put in place of, with the thing that they did with the coaches, where every coach in different places they're meeting with community organizers. I interviewed Stan Van Gundy for my book, and he was talking about particulars of going and trying to figure out how they can help in the specific city that they're in. Right. I was very impressed because at first, honestly, I thought, okay, all these teams, putting out statements to just say, we believe in Black Lives Matter, or, so I was like, this is kind of getting a little bit repetitive here. I don't know. But then to see the follow-up programs after that, I got to say I was definitely impressed.
So if you could see, what's one thing you'd like to see the NBA do differently, just in terms of that?
So one of the things that I did, I wrote this piece in The Guardian, and I said that I wanted for NBA CEOs. I don't call them owners for obvious reasons, but Adam Silver calls them governors. So NBA governors, like Mark Cuban, in different cities, to use their power and their influence in the cities that they're in, dealing with specifically police departments. And after it, I had and I mentioned a lot of different, CEOs, Mickey Arelson, Clay Pittman, of course. But Mark Cuban actually reached back out to me. He messaged me, and we had a great conversation. So I interviewed him for my next book, and we talked about what he can do and what he does do, and a lot of the stuff I didn't know. And so, and I was like, yeah, y'all got the power to try to, because when you're the CEO of an NBA team, you're a bigwig in that city.
Absolutely.
You are in those circles where you have those functions and those meetings and things like that, where there may be the police chief there, there may be the mayor there, maybe the governor there. So you can use your influence in ways.
Definitely.
And so it's I would like to see more of that happen. Okay. Mark Cuban told me what he does and what he pushes to do. And then he talked to me about how then sometimes the problem happens is then a whole new police chief comes after that, and then they do things completely different.
Back to square one.
Back to square one. Yep. But at least giving the effort, I think that's something that, I'd like to see the NBA a little more of, to be honest.
So when does the next book come out? Do you have a date on it yet, or still putting it together?
Yeah, I'm still putting it all together.
Okay.
It's a great book, and I do where I like to interview a lot of different people and then kind of intertwine my thoughts and feelings and opinions in between what the interviews are. And I've had a great list. It's kind of the same format that I did with my We Matter book. So yeah, no, that's what I've been working on now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit lighter hearted. I like to go back a little bit with our legends.
All right.
You mentioned you're from Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
You went to Booker T. Washington High School, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I have to ask, who's the best athlete to come out of Booker T. Washington High School?
Wayman Tisdale by far.
Okay, I was gonna say
number one. Wayman Tisdale was the man. Like, he was bigger than life that back then when he was playing. Like, you know, and then you have Richard Dumas, who was, you know, he was the man. He played in the finals against MJ and them when he was with Phoenix, when he was with Barkley, and then I mean, we have a lot of, you know, Booker T is a place rich with traditions. They just came out with this article, I think a few days ago, of the most championships of any high school across the country. And DeMatha was number one, and Booker T was number two. Wow. But the thing about it is, and I got to check on this, I don't know if they started counting championships before integration. With Booker T, because Booker T was segregated. I don't know if they counted those. So I got to, because if they count those, then it won't even be any close. But right now we're number two. So that's
number two. That's not bad. Not bad. Yeah. I was just saying, because it's like Wayman Tisdale, got like R.W. McQuarters, Tyler Lockett, Justice Hill in the league right now, Felix Jones. I was just scrolling the list, and I was like, man, oh man, I thought it might be. I felt like Tisdale was probably the top dog, but I wanted to check and see.
Tisdale was the man.
Yeah. Now, after high school in Tulsa, went to Syracuse. How'd you end up going from Oklahoma up to Syracuse?
Well, I was born in New York.
Okay.
And I was born in Harlem, and I lived there for a while. Then my dad got transferred to American Airlines, and that's where I ended up in Oklahoma.
Got you.
But then I spent all my summers in New York. Because all my family, both sides, are from New York, right?
Got you.
So I spent my summers between Harlem with my mother's side and like the Bronx, Mount Vernon with my father's side. So I spent a lot of time in New York and spent a lot of time with my grandfather taking me to the Big East tournament.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I fell in love with the Big East.
Okay, that's when the Big East was the Big East. Yeah.
And he used to get so passionate about it, watching them, because, you know, it was physical, they was bruising, it was like all heart, watching St. John's and Syracuse and, you know, Georgetown and, you know, Villanova. Those were like battles. And so that's why I grew up loving that style. And so that's why I also grew up a Knicks fan. Because my grandfather,
sorry to hear that, but
well, you know, at that time it was wonderful. Like it was, you know, that Oakley, that, you know what I mean, P. Ewing, that John Starks, that Mason, that all of them, and that physical, rugged New York style. That was the style, and it's all different now. You know what I mean? It's just basketball's different as a whole. But that's why. So that's how I ended up going there, because I grew up really, you know, watching that, you know, every summer, every year, everything like that.
Right. Okay. So what do you remember most about playing for Jim Boeheim?
Oh man, we had some great years there, you know, and it's interesting because we have such a rich history with, you know, Derek Coleman, John Wallace, you know, Billy Owens, you know, we had a Ronnie Cycli, and those guys all coming back and talking to us while we were there. It was like motivation, you know, and it was like, yeah, you know, you guys are doing this, giving us pointers. Roosevelt Bowie even going even further back, and so that was great. So it was really a special time, but for the most part, there's no place like the Carrier Dome. Okay. Like, we literally have like 35,000 people, you know what I mean, for a pack. So I get to the league and I was like, this is a smaller crowd.
Yeah, where's all the people at? Yeah.
Carrier Dome, you know, and it's just, you have just a whole sea of 35,000 people all in orange. We're playing Georgetown. That atmosphere is, I mean, you can't even describe it. You just have to witness it. And it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. You did 4 years there. You were a lottery pick in the 2000 draft, but this was like kind of around like the, you know, KG's, Kobe's, McGrady's going out of high school. But even then, you had like Elton Brand, Baron Davis, guys that were doing, you know, 2 years, maybe 3 years of college. Was that ever a consideration for you?
Well, it was my junior year. I didn't play that much freshman year. I was playing against Otis Hill, so I had to learn. And my sophomore year was kind of like my breakout year. And then my junior year, I did pretty good. Then the talk was like, okay, you could come out. Right. And so I just looked at it. You know, my degree is in business management. So I looked at it from a business perspective. You know, if I come out here, I'll be slated in the end of the first round. The end of the first round is slotted to make this amount.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I go higher and come back and I'm in the lottery, I'm slotted to make this amount.
This amount.
You know what I mean? So I looked at that, I was like, this amount versus this amount.
Right. Yeah, I can wait. Yeah.
Yeah, I can wait. I can try to go higher. So that was me. I was like, college ain't bad. I'm not like, struggling like, or, I want to get my degree. So that was a good decision for me. I do feel though that everybody has to be able to have the freedom to make the best decision for them.
Right.
So for some people, they don't need to go to college.
Right.
LeBron, Kobe, they didn't need to go to college.
Right.
So you got to have people have that ability to do that if that's their route and that's their path. For me, it was beneficial for me to play 4 years. For other people, not so much. So that's why I'm not a real big fan of the one and done rule. I've been hearing discussions that they may be do away with it after a while. But and that being said, do I think that there will be players who try to leave who aren't ready to leave? Of course, I feel that. That's not even a question.
Yeah, that's the game.
That's not even a question. But you got to give them that freedom to be able to do it, and make their own choice. When you're 18, if they'll send you overseas to war, they should be able to be okay with you making a decision to play professional basketball.
It feels fair, right?
Yeah, it does.
So you'd be in favor of just the 18, like as long as you're 18 out of high school, you have that option.
Yes. Yeah. And then also, when the rules for overseas players can be different than the rules for, players here. So overseas, they turn professional when they're 14.
Early.
You know what I mean? Like like Luka was a professional early.
He's been doing this for years.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, well, come on now. Come on now.
Right. That your rookie year, you drafted into Washington, as you mentioned. Now, your first year there was also Michael Jordan's first year in Washington, correct?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What do you remember about that?
Well, actually, I was first drafted with the Mavericks the year before, but then I got traded that year. So I didn't play with the Mavericks because I got injured. But when I got traded to the Wizards, at that time, the Wizards were the worst team in the league. I remember when I because I just had my foot surgery, and so I stayed in Dallas a little bit after we got traded. So I came there a little bit late, and I remember coming there to a game, and there was honestly about 25 people in the stadium. There was nobody.
Very few, yeah.
It was very few, and I think half of them was to be family members of the players, and it was the culture was just different. It just looked dismal. It just, it was getting blown out. It was terrible. So then that summer, I'm working out, stuff like that, getting ready. And then the news comes that MJ's coming out of retirement, right? Mm. And just like that, everything changed for the Wizards. Everything changed in DC. So then the following year, every game was sold out. Yep. We had a crowd outside, just waiting,
begging to get in.
For the bus to go by. When back in the day, you would see those images of Michael Jackson when he would go someplace overseas,
mall or somewhere,
right? And it would be this pandemonium and all these people around, and then you would see people just look at him and start crying. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or touch his arm and pass out. So all kind of crazy stuff. Right. That's what I saw with MJ. And it was the craziest thing to see, close personal. People literally look at him and start crying. It was crazy, but that was a very interesting, welcome to the NBA 2 years for me.
Yeah. Now, did you get sucked into those dice games, card games, getting out on the town with Mike? Or
thanks, no. I would be in where the plane is, and they were right over there, and I'd watch them and I'd see them.
Right.
There's no way I would. They used to play these games, and I would just see money stacked up. I'm like, man, please.
Yeah, I'm fine watching. Yeah,
it's not even a question, but it's funny watching The Last Dance and them showing how he liked to bet on everything. Yeah. And literally, that's true.
That's accurate. Yeah.
I bet you that I could throw this all the way over there and hit the trash can. You know what I mean? Right. And guys will take the bet. I was like, yeah, I'm not getting into that at all.
You never took that bait.
So one time, it was during the March Madness, And during the tournament, everybody is like repping their team and like, you know what I mean. So Syracuse was playing great. That's that year with Melo with Syracuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they killing everybody, right? I'm like, yeah, Syracuse. And then he really liked TJ Ford, and they was playing against Texas. And so he was like, all right, young fellow, put your money where your mouth is. I was like, huh? And I just stopped.
It's me? Yeah.
He started laughing. He was like, yeah, I know you don't really do this. Well, we do a friendly wager. I was like, all right, that's a friendly wager. Okay.
Right.
So what's a friendly wager? He said, let's bet 1,000. I was like, 1,000?
Friendly?
Wager? I was like, can we bring that down a little bit more friendly? And he started laughing. And he said, okay, let's just do a nice little $100 bet. I was like, okay, that I can do. And then Syracuse won, right? So the next day I come into practice and I was just smiling. And then he looked at me when I came in and he started smiling. He came over to my desk, to my locker, and he pulled out the 100 and then gave it to me. That was the only time I bet with MJ.
Okay. 1-0.
I went 1-0 and then I retired.
Went out on top.
Yes, that's all.
So you should have made that friendly bet, man. He would have had to peel you off 10 of those things.
I ain't never bet that much money for nothing before in my life. I wasn't going to start betting against MJ.
I was going to say that's not really where you want to cut your teeth in that game.
Not at all.
So those 2 years he was there, what do you remember most about, I guess, the difference between him being there versus after he left?
Well, we had to start all over after he left. And so it was just a redo and a rebuild. And Coach Eddie Jordan came, and I did like Eddie Jordan a lot. We had a real good relationship. And, he just had to start from scratch. He just said, hey, listen, whatever happened in the past is over with. So now we start off with a fresh slate. And, I'm just going to see who plays the hardest, who plays, and that's who's going to play. Right. And we're starting all over. And so that was, that was good. I had a good relationship with them. I thought he was he was a good coach. And we had a lot of success under him. And I think that Coach Jordan is a coach where I don't think he got the credit he deserved. Because honestly, the Wizards had not been in the playoffs since they were the Bullets.
Yep.
Chris Webber and Juwan Howard.
Way back then, yep.
So there was a long drought of no playoffs. We didn't get to the playoffs with MJ, right? When he came out of retirement. So Eddie Jordan, we was in the playoffs like year after year after year. I mean, we kept losing to LeBron and them. You know what I mean? But
there's no shame in that, yeah.
There's LeBron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a young LeBron, but it was still LeBron. But the fact that he put us in the playoffs consistently after that, I just didn't think that there was enough credit being thrown his way for what he accomplished while he was with the Wizards. So, yeah, I just want to say that.
And what do you think of, do you still follow the game, watch the game currently?
Yeah, of course.
So what do you think about the way the game has shifted? Like in terms of, it's pretty much all perimeter oriented. Like, do you think, would you be taking corner threes now? Like what do you make of the way the game is?
It's interesting. I just interviewed Brian Grant for my podcast. We were talking about the same thing because we're like dinosaurs. Like we don't even exist anymore. Like the whole game is complete. Like we're 6'8", 6'9", and don't really want to go outside that much. We want to bang inside. We want to get rebounds. We want to block shots. We want to, offensive rebounds, things like that, put back dunks. That's how we like to play. Right. People our size don't play like that.
That's point guard now.
Right. So it's completely different. So the game has just changed. So yeah, no, I wasn't interested in shooting no threes. I don't think I shot a three ever. That just wasn't my interest. Right. So it's funny when I'm, with my son, and I coach his AAU team, and he's tall, and my wife is tall, but he likes KD. You know what I mean? Right. He wants to play like
cross people up.
Step everywhere and everything like that. So it's just a whole different game. It's fun to watch though. But I still like rooting for the big men. Like I root for Embiid to do well. Even though he likes to go outside too, but just a big man. I love seeing the combination of Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee last year when they won the championship. And I thought the Lakers didn't make a great move by not retaining them because I think that they undervalued what they brought to the team as a whole. And they were big men doing work inside,
dirty work. Yeah.
All the dirty work. So I was rooting for them. But I can appreciate the game now. But I am I have big man bias, so I do like to see big men be successful in the game now too.
Okay, who are some of the other guys you like to watch now?
Well,
it can be big men or anybody really.
Well, what I do with my son is we study guys. So we study, because like I said, we study KD. KD is the man. Like that's who and because he's from here as well. Right. Malcolm's my son. They've all grown up and they been following him. He's the guy. So of course Giannis, we study him, study Kawhi. And he wants to be kind of like a blend of all of them. But I keep telling him, I was like, listen, I want you to also study Anthony Davis. Because he goes inside and outside. Right. And he's, so we do a little bit of those. So that's usually, now that you get older, you're watching it for a purpose. And you're like pointing things out. You're like, all right, you see how he got across that screen? All right. You see how he did,
Right.
You watch the basketball a little differently when you pointing out things as a coach, as a dad.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I saw a piece you wrote not too long ago about like the officiating, just how guys it seems like they're giving guys a quick hook now. You had a couple like suggestions. Like what do you think could help there? So
this all changed after the brawl in the Palace.
Yep.
This is when everything changed because all before it was not like this. Right. So from that point on, it's like they want guys to play with no emotion. They don't want to see it's like they're always worried. Okay,
penalized.
Right. They want to stop anything before it starts. They're like really, really on edge about everything. And so I was watching the game with Brooklyn and the Lakers, and Kyrie.
The one this week or a couple days ago.
A couple days ago, right? And Kyrie and Schroeder got into. They was arguing. They was talking. And then I just thought that ejection was so cool. And it was such a good game. Yeah. Like it was like right there. And then after the game happened, the Lakers went on this, run. And honestly, I turned the channel. I turned it off and went to sleep. Like I didn't finish the game. I was like, oh, they done messed up the whole game. Yeah. So that's why when I woke up, then I wrote the article. And I'm talking about how, as a suggestion, I think that they, instead of having such a quick ejection, and I've seen this happen in AAU, so it's not like I just came up with it, but they basically tell the two guys, all right, both you guys check out, and you could come back in, 5 minutes or at the end of the quarter,
cool off a little bit.
When you cool off. Like I've seen that happen, and it worked. Guys sit down, you know what I mean? They
like penalty box in hockey, I think.
Penalty box, right. I think that would be a much better recommendation rather than just ejecting guys quick.
Yeah.
I mean, because they come with it quick. So, and sometimes, and listen, I understand that refereeing is a tough job. Definitely. It is a very tough job. Every single call you make, somebody has an issue with.
Somebody's going to disagree.
Right. And now guys are kind of, at least it seems, whining a little bit more, after every, so I get it. But you can't expect guys to be robots. You can't. Right. I mean, I just saw this clip of this was just last night. Cat came down, had a great dunk. You know what I mean? Was like boot tech. I'm like, why are you calling a tech on him?
You should be able to celebrate that. Yeah,
to celebrate. I mean, I saw one guy yelled and won, and they called it tech. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, come on now. This is y'all doing too much. This is like I can understand at least. If there's a confrontation, I understand you being a little nervous, relax, just give it. But for guys showing emotion after a good play, not even any, I was like, come on now, y'all are doing a little too much.
Yeah, because it was like Kyrie and Schroeder, like they had a good back and forth on. Like Schroeder was playing them pretty well, and it's like, okay, now both you guys are out.
Now both of you are out. Yeah, like come on now, that was a little quick.
Yeah. I as a former player, what do you think about the play-in tournament?
It's okay. I mean, I understood it for the bowl season.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if I quite agree with it moving forward, to be honest with you. I think it's a little bit, I don't know. I thought it was great for the bubble season.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how I quite feel about it as just, like you want to give more people a chance. You want to try to be, I understand the need, the design of it. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if I can quite wrap my mind around it. I mean, I think it's, and I don't know. I don't know about that one yet.
Okay. I think it's, like you said, work well for the bubble. I guess we'll see. We saw Mark Cuban and Luka kind of spoke out against it. We're getting closer to it. I think that's when we're going to start seeing more people speak out either in favor or opposed to it. So I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I also saw, we won't keep you too much longer. You recently talked to Last Chance U coach, John Mosley.
Yeah.
You think you could have played for Coach Mosley, a guy that's on 100 at all times, 24/7?
Listen, I thought he was great.
I love him. Yeah,
I really liked that series. We watched it in like 2 days. Just watched it all the way through. The passion that he had for the players, and it was a great interview. It was an honor to be able to to interview him. And also interview Joe Hampton. So that's going to come out next week. Okay. But it was great to be able to see a coach that cares about their players beyond the court. Right. So, in AAU, you see coaches that are in it for the wrong reason. Right. You see it. You see coaches who could care less about what their players are doing. But with Coach Mosley, you saw someone who actually cared and how he was, dealing with like Deshaun, the point guard. And how he was dealing with Joe when he was kirking out and acting like, but he was like, yeah, y'all don't know what he's been through. Yeah. Like, you don't know, and he's talking about it. He was like, yeah, everybody gave up on him and stuff like that. And he's like, I don't want to be another person that gives up on him because I see something that I don't like. Right. And he said, no, and I do not like this. Right. But I don't want to give up on him. And he was like, because if I give up on him, then what happens to him? Yeah. And I just thought that was so, profound about it. He's like, now, of course, if it gets to the point where it's detrimental to the entire team, right? Yeah, I have to do something. Yeah. But you know what I mean? I don't want to be, the first to another person added to the list of someone who gave up on him. And I just thought it was a great documentary. I enjoyed the interview, enjoyed talking to Coach about his different types of motivation, why he's so passionate and why so I thought it was great. It's I hope they do more of those with basketball. I mean, the football Last Chance shoes are good, but basketball with that one was dope. Like, I
at first, like going in, because I'd watched them all going in, I was like, like basketball could work, of course. I just didn't know how it would work. And then at the end, I was like, maybe they should have did basketball all along. Right. Like, it might just work better. Right. In this format. You have to step on it, but how was talking with Joe Hampton?
Oh no, it was great. I'm talking to him about what he was feeling, like why, and going to a little bit more in depth of stuff that they didn't show. Like they showed you him kirking out, they showed you him struggling, they showed you him not being able to deal with the emotions of the refs not. And I just went deeper into that with him, like why, like what exactly was going on in your mind, like what exactly happened when you got hurt and everybody kind of gave up on you when you was like God's gift to basketball at first. You know what I mean? Or what was going on when you started making bad decisions and when they started saying that you gave up on life and you was depressed. Like, tell me a little bit more. Like, what's going on with that? And, so we just went deeper into all of it. So it was, it was good. Gotcha.
Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier, you were a poet, released a book of poetry in 2005, I believe. Mm-hmm. Now, do you still write poetry? Mm-hmm. You still? Okay. How did you get started? Is that something you've always been involved in?
That I started a little bit more in high school when I was doing speech and debate. So when I was writing original oratories, which is writing my own piece, I would do standard oratories, which is somebody else's speeches, and then the same with poetry. So I would write my own poems and I would perform other people's poems. So the poets that I really liked back then I liked the Last Poets. I grew up listening to them. Mary Baraka, you know what I mean? But then I started liking the contemporary poets like Saul Williams and Mums the Poet, who just passed away. If anybody remembers Oz, he was called Poet from Oz. And he was just dope. The way that he would just spit. And I was someone who always was into lyrics. Because poetry is hip hop. So I was always into lyrics. So sometimes guys around my way, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Everybody likes, the West Coast stuff, and everybody likes the beats. And I'm like, okay, that's cool beats. I kind of want to hear what they're saying, though. I want to hear them give them analogies and give some references, and then tell. So I started liking really like Nas and what I mean, like those kind of cats that are really like, and nothing against the West Coast. I love the West Coast. I just wasn't as into beats as a lot of the guys that were my friends. So then I started getting into Common and Kweli and Mos Def and all them cats, Black Thought, and that's all poetry. That's all of it. You know, you use poetry to tell a story, to give an opinion, to make a statement, to do everything. So that's when I started getting into it a lot more. So, you know, looking in, you know, from high school, college, I had this big book of poems, and you know, so I just wanted to turn it into a book.
So is it harder, like, to write a poem or article or get a chapter together for a book? Like, what's the most difficult?
I mean, it's the thing with poetry. Like, I can't sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a poem about this. You know what I mean? Or I have like a day. It has to just hit you. Right. And when it hits you, it's like I can't put the pen down until I'm finished. You know? And it could be in the middle of the morning. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, oh,
this sounds good. Yeah.
Right. So that's how it kind of works with poetry. But it works like that too with articles as well. So sometimes when I see something, I gotta be inspired by it. And then I just knock it out really quickly. You know,
gotcha.
It's the same way.
Okay. One last question for you. We ask all our legends this, and I feel like it ties into the poet question. Getting together our season 2 of our playlist. We're getting a couple songs from all our legends, just something you're listening to around the house while you're writing, on the way to, you know, coach ball, like you said. Could be old school, new school, whatever. Like, what are you listening to these days?
So I listen to a lot of J. Cole.
Okay.
I still listen to the old school stuff like Kweli and the Roots, and you know, and me and my son, we have this thing where he wants to, you know, show me his new school stuff. I want to try to show him my old school stuff. So we do that a lot. Okay. You know, some of the new school stuff, I'm like, you know,
it's hard.
But I can roll with Lil Baby. I started like a Lil Baby.
Okay.
You know, he started like a Busta Rhymes, DMX, Wu-Tang. So we can do a little bit of cross
back and forth. Okay.
Yeah, a little back and forth. So yeah.
Okay. We'll throw one old school, one new school on there for you.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Got a lot going on. Tell us, like, where can we, you know, check for the book, check for the Joe Hampton and Coach Mosley interviews? Where can we find you, man?
So that's all my interviews on my podcast called Rematch. My articles are on basketballnews.com. So that's where you can find all of that. I also write for The Guardian. So I do that a lot as well. My book is called We Matter, Athletes and Activism. So that's all on Amazon, everything like that. And I'm working on my new book. So got a lot going on. Keep myself
busy man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if this whole last year have been kind of, you know, quarantined and in the house a whole lot, so I had a whole lot of time to do a lot.
Might as well,
right?
Etan Thomas, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Oh, great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Right. That'll do it this week for Legends Live. As you know, we've got new episodes every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central at the NBA Alumni's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch page. You can find them there. I'd like to remind you, you can watch replays of any episode at legendsofbasketball.com/legendslive. You can catch the audio replay to our conversations if you search for Legends Live wherever you get your podcasts. I'd like to thank you to Bridget, Aaron, and Julio behind the scenes. Thank you all for watching. Thank Etan for joining us. We'll see you next Thursday. And as you know, the WNBA draft is tonight. So we'd like to go ahead and wish good luck to all the ladies tonight and the future players, future stars, future legends in the WNBA. We can't wait to see you on the next level.